The Black Phone is a 2022 supernatural horror film directed by Scott Derrickson and is based off the Joe Hill story of the same name. Now, I have read the original short story, and while it is obviously good, the movie obviously adds a little more stuff to it, and I do have the controversial opinion of liking the movie a little better than the original source material. Anyway, the film stars Ethan Hawke and Mason Thames and is personally one of my favorite horror films of 2022 next to Nope. With that being said, let's move on with the review. The premise of this film revolves around a shy young boy named Finn, played by Mason Thames, who is struggling with a very hard life, not only at home with an abusive, drunken father, but also at home at school with idiot, douche-faced bullies. Nothing seems to be going right for him. Oh, speaking of which, there's another thing he has to worry about. The Grabber, a child killer who goes around picking off children only for them to be never seen again. Finn doesn't think much of the Grabber until one day he ends up finding him. Now, trapped in a soundproof cellar with nothing but a bed, Finn has to rely on a mysterious black phone with a loose wire hanging on the wall that might just be his only lease on life. But he isn't alone, because his sister is blessed with a special gift that gives her premonitions which give her hints as to where her brother is, but she must work fast because Finn's time is running out. This is the first time where this kind of vice versa has happened with these types of films. Usually, the ghosts are the ones who we need to fear, but this time it's the one thing, aside from Dr. Sleep, but even then some of their ghosts were evil as well, that is actually going to save our protagonist this time. So that was a pretty unique twist on the ghost genre. Also, I'm happy this movie takes a pretty short story and manages to stretch it to an 80-plus minute runtime and still not make it feel slow, because I feel like that's a big problem with horror films based on short stories, especially with Children of the Corn, which, even though I have a guilty pleasure for that movie, I will admit it had a few dragging scenes, quote-unquote. But in this film, not only did they add in more subplots, such as his life at home and school, but also because every scene was just very engaging, because all of it just felt so important, not only for the character development, but to the plot overall. I don't think there was one scene in this where it just felt like they were filling runtime. Anyway, I give plot an A. Next is acting. Everyone does a pretty good job in this. The way all these characters played off each other was a huge part of why the acting works so good in this movie. Mason Thames and Miguel Mora do such a fantastic job at interacting off each other that it actually did feel genuine in a lot of areas. But when it came to being scared, Mason Thames was fantastic. To give an example, there is one scene where his character breaks down crying after realizing how hopeless this whole situation is. Usually, characters just scream in horror, but he made the situation feel a lot more scary when he broke down crying. It really seemed like he was convinced he was never getting out. Also, Ethan Hawke was fucking amazing as the Grabber because he actually managed to seem really threatening at times. For example, there were scenes where he would be all sweet and gentle and try to be buddies with Finn, but then there were other scenes where he would be raging and screaming. It made him so much more threatening since I never knew when he was going to go off on Finn. It sort of reminded me of what Kathy Bates did with her performance in Misery. Also, when he talked, it almost sounded like a child. It almost sounded childlike sometimes, which was especially scary because it only showed just how unhinged his character truly was. I give acting an A+. Finally, directing. Scott Derrickson does a fantastic job of making you care for a lot of these characters and realizing that it isn't just Finn who is in danger. His sister is also in just as much trouble because she might lose her older brother, and if she doesn't use her gift to find him, she may never see him again. And she starts to see all the horrible things the Grabber has done because of this, which only made me want to see her finish her quest to save her brother even more. Also, if the Grabber isn't stopped, he'll go after more children. He isn't going to stop at Finn. Anyway, and also, Scott did an excellent job with the pacing, since even though Finn wasn't kidnapped until about 20 to 30 minutes later, so much happens between that moment to show just how much of a threat the Grabber is, as well as how easy it is to be grabbed by him. I give directing an A. Overall, The Black Phone is what happens when you mix The Silence of the Lambs and The Shawshank Redemption. It has a very inspiring message about not giving hope like Shawshank had. Since then, despite how frightful his situation might have seemed, he never stopped fighting to escape. And also, I've noticed some surprising parallels with The Silence of the Lambs. Bottom line, this is a fantastic movie that will have you on edge, but also leave you feeling very optimistic. This movie also has some of the most amazing, most genuine characters I've seen in a film since 2017's It. I give The Black Phone an A. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.